You're about to be injected with the highest dose of information, empowerment, and inspiration. The On the Pen live experience has arrived. Get ready to embark on a transformative adventure. Welcome to On the Pen Live.
Welcome to this 113th episode of On the Pen Live. I'm your host, Dave Knapp, man of the Manjaro. That's why I'm here. You, my friend, are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Manjaro, that bound compound, that pen. And whether you are just thinking about starting a GLP-1 journey, just starting a GLP-1 journey, or whether you're already in the maintenance mode, we've got something for everyone on each one of these shows. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We've got a great show for you tonight. We've got a great interview from my friend Ike Boettger, who is an NFL football player and most recently my gym buddy. And we're going to hear from him. He's not on a GLP-1, but he is on a health and wellness journey and discovering the power of personalized medicine and what that can do to help you optimize your body, your performance, so that you can show up in the best version of you to the people who need you the most. And so I'm super excited to bring you that interview and that conversation with Ike. It's actually the first conversation that I've had here in the studio live with somebody. So I'm really excited to bring you that with Ike. We're going to hear from our friend Allie at Fit Flavor Fun. She's going to talk a little bit about one of the most hot button issues. We brought it up last week on a video that went viral on TikTok. I think we're sitting somewhere around 270,000 views on this video, talking about how Manjaro added alopecia to the post-marketing data in their package insert. So yes, indeed, these medicines for a certain amount of the population can cause hair loss. It's now acknowledged both in the package insert of Zepbound and Manjaro. Same drug, but it is listed different in the pack and insert. Not super important for the purposes of this video. It's just important to know that if you're dealing with it, there are answers. And even though we're not medical professionals here at On the Pen, we do have the lived experience and the joy of leading communities of people who do deal with this stuff all the time, which is a reason that you need to hit the like, hit the bell, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. That way you'll stay in touch with all of the stuff that we do here at On the Pen. You're going to want to follow my friend Allie at Fit Flavor Fun as well. So make sure you do all that. If you're listening on the podcast, also remember that leaving a 5-star rating and review is your little act of advocacy for the week. Literally helps other people to discover this content. The ratings and the reviews on the podcast is like paramount to having that content pushed out, just like comments and likes are here on YouTube. So make sure you do all the things as your little form of advocacy for the week. If you think this video and this content is helpful for you, it's probably helpful for someone else too. So thank you so much for those who are doing that, even as we speak. How's everyone doing in the chat? Welcome on the Pen Live. Like I said earlier, it's our 113th episode, which is super exciting to me. I just love that we're back and we're doing this again. Perhaps we'll end up doing it live, but this is pre-recorded a little bit earlier in the day because I got kids to tend to at night, and I don't want mom to go crazy having to do it by herself. So we do this in the afternoon. I think you're going to enjoy it either way. This is live. We're watching it live together. So let me know that you're here in the comments of the video, where you're watching from. If you're new, drop an N in the chat for new. We'd love to welcome you by name. Our community will welcome you here with open arms. And if you're OG, you've been around here for a while, put OG in the comments. Oh, but we've got a great show. And without further ado, I want to bring you this word from our friend Allie at Fit Flavor Fun. For those of you who are in the throes of the GLP-1 journey and you've got some extra shedding going on, you notice in the shower is clumps of hair. What is that about and what can be done? Let's hear from Allie.
Hey everybody, it's Allie with your GLP-1 game plan, the newbie need to know. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk to you about hair loss. Because let's face it, when you're starting out on a GLP-1, this is kind of a big thing that everybody talks about. So I know that there are a lot of people that are concerned about losing their hair. And I'm here to tell you that there are many solutions when it comes to dealing with hair loss and being on a GLP-1. So first and foremost, there are a couple of things that I want to mention. One is there are two types of hair loss. The first has to do with taking Mounjaro, Zepbound, tirzepatide. And the recent information that Dave actually touched on this week about how the medication itself causes hair loss. It's listed in the side effects. So there's that. So there are some people who find that they lose hair very early on in their journey and they haven't lost that much weight. The second group is the group that has lost a significant amount of weight and they find that their hair is shedding, right? So the challenge is, what do you do in these situations? Well, if you're in the first group and you haven't lost that much weight and you're finding that your hair is thinning, then you definitely want to talk to your doctor. You may even want to visit with a dermatologist to see if there's something that they can do to assist you. There are oral medications, there are creams, there are foams, there are various products that you can use, but it's important that you talk to a doctor because there are a lot of gimmicky products online and you don't want to waste your money on gimmicky products. So talk to the doctor. Again, there's lots of options there. The second one, our second group over here, that is losing a ton of weight and is having hair loss, there are options. Now, first and foremost, you want to go to your doctor and you want to have labs run, right? Obviously, we need to check your thyroid. We need to check vitamin levels. We need to make sure that this is not related to a deficiency. And then, of course, you would want to defer to your doctor on what they recommend if something is deficient. But in the meantime, you want to make sure that you're taking a high quality whole food vitamin. Now, what does that look like? Well, it's not gummies and all of the other things that you see being advertised online. It's not that. You want a vitamin that when you take it out of the packaging, it smells like broccoli. If it smells like vegetables and it's made from vegetables, you're on the right track. Now, in addition to making sure that you've got a multivitamin, right, that's either for a man or a woman, whatever the case may be, specialized for you based off of age, right? All of those things, you're going to want to look at your calorie deficit. Now, I know that this is going to be a touchy subject for many people because there's the group that doesn't want to track their calories, and then there's the group that does want to track their calories. In this specific instance, you need to know how much calories you're consuming. Because if you're losing hair, chances are you are coming in way below a healthy calorie deficit. The flip side is, if you've been in a healthy calorie deficit, but you've been there for a very long time, our bodies are not meant to be in a caloric deficit for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years, right? But it may take us that time to lose the weight. And so that's why you see that people often get into a stall. That is your body trying to find equilibrium. So I digress. One thing that you need to keep in mind is if you are losing hair, you're going to want to up your calories. Now, what I did to help me in my hair journey is I upped to a maintenance level calories. Again, this is only going to be helpful if you're tracking your calories. If tracking your calories is not something you can do for your healthy mindset, you can get with the dietitian and have them work everything out for you and then provide you with a meal plan of what to eat. So you're going to want to up your calories to maintenance level calories. At maintenance, you are not going to lose weight. I know, the horror. So you want to stay at maintenance level calories. It's going to change depending on the person, but for the most part, you want to be there for at least 2 weeks. You need to give your body time to repair and say, oh, okay, we don't need to freak out anymore. We can hold on to the hair. It may take longer, but at least for 2 weeks. You need to understand that eating maintenance level calories, you are not going to lose weight. You are going to maintain. And I am here to tell you, maintaining is winning. If you take anything away from this video today, I want you to remember that I said this. Maintaining is winning. If you're not gaining weight, you are winning. So, these are some ways that you can go about addressing hair loss. For many people, it is temporary, regardless of which group you fall into. So just be prepared. Be thinking about it. If you are just starting out on your GLP-1 journey, go ahead and decide how you want to address it. Do you want to get a hair topper? Do you want to get a toupee? Do you want to shave your head? Do you want to get a shorter pixie cut or a Bixie? Or a mixie if you like the mullet look. Whatever it is you decide to do, make sure that you are A, talking to your doctor, and B, that you don't let it sabotage you. It's temporary and you can get through this. I hope you found this video helpful. And this is Allie signing off from your GLP-1 game plan.
Allie with the GLP-1 game plan. And I love that Allie addressed this week. And the reason I do is because this is a deeply personal and sensitive topic for especially the women in our community who have dealt with the issue of hair loss on a GLP-1. Now, many have been gaslit and said, it's just the weight loss. And they're over here going, I microdose or I have lost, at a very normal clip, maybe a half a pound a week. For those people, I think it's important to know that it could be the medication. It could be alopecia, again, is listed under the post-marketing data for Mounjaro in the packet insert approved by the FDA. But whatever your experience is with hair loss, perhaps it's none because for some, they just never have that problem. But if you're someone who is concerned about that because you're going to get on a GLP-1 or you're on a GLP-1 and you have experienced it, just know that there are things that you can do. And the number one thing that you can do is talk to your doctor, because there are even medical interventions that they can do to make sure that you are getting the level of treatment that you want, because you want to be happy, you want to be content with your experience. And there are just things that can be done. So definitely talk to your doctor. And thanks to Allie at Fit Flavor Fun. Go over, give her a follow. I love Allie. She's like my sister from another mister. Love it when she brings that information. And if you saw that video and have heard the stuff on the hair loss, be not afraid. Let not your heart be troubled. There are things that you can do. So thank you again to Allie. Now we're going to hear this week on the maintenance side. Eventually we'll hear from our friend Corey again, but she's got a lot going on in life. She'll be contributing back here again, probably in the next couple of weeks. Now, if you're on maintenance, because we want to give something for everybody here, if you're on maintenance and you missed our podcast on Tuesday, please check it out. We had an interview with Harith Rajagopalan. Now, Harith is the CEO of a company called Fractal Health, and Fractal Health is working on a procedure that may allow you to do maintenance on a GLP-1 without a GLP-1. So in other words, get to your goal weight, yes, but unlike the clinical trials that say that you will gain the weight back if you go off the medicine, Fractal comes in and offers a potential solution. And we got the first data in human trials from it. And we had the CEO on to talk about that. Now, he's been on a couple times to talk about their Revita program, which is what we'll talk about today. We're going to hear just a little bit from him and then go back and get the full interview from the podcast this past week. But let's hear from Harith, and then I'll follow up with a couple of my thoughts.
Evidence that Revita can prevent weight regain after tirzepatide.
Harith, tell us about the news that we got this past week on the Revita program.
Absolutely, Dave. So we're very excited because we've been running our studies of Revita now in this really huge, new, important area in obesity, which is what do you do for people who need to or want to stop taking a GLP-1 for their weight, but are afraid of or trying to avoid the regain that inevitably happens when you stop these medicines. So we've been working on developing a therapeutic approach called Revita that targets the hunger center of your gut in a region of the gut called the duodenum with a minimally invasive outpatient endoscopic procedure. And what we reported on Friday are interim results from our first randomized sham-controlled double-blind study testing whether Revita versus a sham can prevent weight regain in people who've already lost weight on tirzepatide. We gave them all tirzepatide, which is the same thing as Zepbound or Mounjaro, and got them to lose 15% of their body weight on the tirzepatide, and then took the tirzepatide away, and then randomizing them to either Revita or a sham, and then asked what happens 3 months later. So these are results in 3 months from 45 patients, about 29 randomized to Revita, 16 randomized to sham. And what we reported are incredible results. Clear evidence that Revita can prevent weight regain after tirzepatide. In fact, patients in the Revita arm lost an incremental 2.5% of their body weight, whereas patients in the sham arm regained 10% of their total body weight, which means that there's this big difference even within 3 months in terms of where weight is for people who underwent Revita versus people who underwent the sham procedure.
So essentially, if I got this right, patients were on on tirzepatide until they reached 15% of their goal to 15% weight loss, and then they were either given what you call a sham procedure, which basically would be placebo, or they were given the Revita program. And the folks on Revita over the following 3 months, the medication was taken away, but the folks that got the Revita procedure lost an additional 2.5% of their body weight over 3 months, where the cohort that lost the medicine and got the placebo procedure gained 10% in just 3 months.
That's right. And as you know, this problem of what happens when you stop a GLP-1 affects millions of people a year.
Very interesting data from Fractal Health showing a 10% regain for those who got the sham procedure and a 2.5% loss for people who actually got the procedure. So this is really hopeful for people who want to do maintenance without a medication. And I think this is super hopeful. So thank you to Harith Rajagopalan for coming on and sharing about that. Now, some of the AI video, these videos we have generated with AI, and that video in there was a bariatric surgery. This is not bariatric surgery. This is an endoscopic, minimally invasive outpatient procedure. Now, somebody in the comments of the video that we did the other day pointed out, it's minimally invasive to anybody who's not getting it, but anybody who's getting it, these procedures can seem a little bit more invasive, but it's minimally invasive, very short procedure. I think he said it takes an hour to an hour and a half, very minimal prep and very quick recovery time to resurface the cells in the duodenum. Now, the duodenum is designed to sense the nutrients that you eat and then signal hormone production that is responsible for satiety in the brain and a host of other things, including GLP-1 secretion and GIP secretion. So all these hormones that are sort of associated with hunger, satiation, all those things are the signaling is being restored. And so ultimately that is the goal with this. He even gets into a couple of gene editing therapies that they're working on where your body will be programmed to produce more GLP-1 when you eat, and even a newer one that will produce more GLP-1 and GIP like tirzepatide when you eat. And so those are very interesting, although for many people they go, gene therapy, maybe somebody else can go first on that one. But thanks to Harith and the team at Fractal, I get really excited about the future of obesity medicine when I hear from folks like Harith who are on the front lines of treating this disease. So thank you to Harith. Now we're going to hear a little bit from our sponsors, and then we're going to hear from our guest of the hour, which is Ike Boettger, former Buffalo Bills player, again, friend who has, in his pursuit of getting back on an NFL squad, discovered this idea of personalized medicine, not GLP-1s, but personalized medicine like NAD plus and glutathione and other and others that have helped him to reach peak performance. We're just going to hear his story, and we're going to hear what led him to this personalized medicine. It's a very compelling story, and I think you're going to love hearing from Mike. But before we hear from Mike, let's hear a word from those who bring On the Pen to us each and every week. I want to thank our sponsor who brings this podcast to us each and every week, Roe. This past week, we got some news from Roe in terms of a massive sponsorship that they started with none other than Serena Williams. You have to have been living under a rock if you missed this news about Serena Williams and her use of GLP-1 medications, basically coming out and saying, hey, she couldn't do it alone. She was fighting some broken biology, and that the use of GLP-1 medications was what she seemed to have been missing. So you can check out our sponsors at Roe because we saw what Serena saw, and that the best platform to get it from is Roe. You can visit roe.co/OTP and learn more about their Roe Body program, where patients lose 15 to 20% of their body weight in a year, coupled with lifestyle modifications and medication when appropriately prescribed. Love our partners at Roe. Check them out at roe.co/OTP. Just a great program over there. I really appreciate Roe helping us to do this podcast each and every week. But I am curious, for those of you who haven't checked in a while on the branded medications, if you've heard about our sponsors, Claimable is actually a company that provides a service that allows you to fight back against your insurance company denials. Now, insurance companies rely on 90% of the patients that get denials never fighting them. And they don't fight them because the process, quite frankly, is cumbersome and convoluted. So what Claimable does is they provide a platform that allows you to compile all of your case, and they help you build that medical case, that legal case, and then they help to create that case and send it off to all the interested parties. Claimable does all of that. You can check them out at getclaimable.com/OTP. Use code OTP10. It'll save you 10% off. You got a 50% shot at getting it covered. I'd say that's worth the $40 to see if you are one of the 50% that ultimately does get your medication covered. I do want to shout out our sponsor, Shape'a, who has continued to help me to stay on my journey. And the Shape'a actually changes the way we track our health. Instead of focusing in on that daily number, it helps us focus in on a pattern. And we want to stay in the pattern of weight loss. We don't want to get sidetracked or derailed by these day-to-day fluctuations. So no numbers, just colors to track your health trends, looking at things like your water weight and your body composition, and using that algorithmically to help you stay in a color-coded pattern that is simple and has a way of helping you stay engaged when you're with your health. Listen, when I'm engaged with the scale, it means I'm engaged with my health. And so Shape'a helps me to stay engaged with the scale. Check them out at myshape'a.com/OTP. Use code OTP30. It's going to save you 30% on the Shape'a scale. This is a wonderful tool for patients living with obesity. myshape'a.com/OTP. Use code OTP30 to save 30%. Love what they're doing at Shape'a. So Shape'a, you can go to home.myshape'a.com/OTP. You got to put that home dot in there to get to our landing page. You're going to learn all about how the Shape'a scale has helped me to really turn my health around. Listen, I'm at 270 pounds. I am 1 pound away from a 50-pound total weight loss, which, if you've been following my story, is like really exciting news, because you all know that I was stalled for a long time. Stally. You're going to hear a little bit more about that later. But let's hear from our friend, Ike Boettger. I don't want to make you wait anymore, because this was a wonderful conversation. I know you're going to love it. So without further ado, meet my friend, Ike. So excited to have somebody in the flesh in this place. Like I was telling you when you walked in, nobody's ever been in here. It's just been me talking to a TV. So Ike, it's good to have you on the pen. Thanks for coming with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave.
So, this is my friend Ike. Funny story about Ike. So Ike and I, we've known who each other are for quite a while, but Ike and I are on sort of the same dad journey, where we're taking our kids to school early in the morning. And it's funny because he lives across the street. So when we're coming out in the morning to take our kids to school, he'll be sitting there at the stoplight, and I'll be sitting there at the stoplight, say, hey buddy, just a wave. One day I get a phone call from Ike. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm going to go work out. You want to come work out? And I was like, actually, yes, I do. Ike, tell everyone a little bit about your story, because you've got such a great story growing up playing football from the area here. Not a lot of people accomplish what you've accomplished in athletics from where we are. So he's like a little bit of like royalty around here. He's one of my sons. Like he's like one of your idols. I mean, I told him the other day, I said, if Ike joins the Vikings, which is pretty much a swear word in our house, I was like, if Ike joins the Vikings, are you going to be a Vikings fan? He's like, yeah. And I was like, well, we know where his allegiance is. So give everybody a little bit of a background, Ike, about what you do and sort of how you came to be an NFL football player.
Yeah, well, first of all, Dave, thanks for having me. My son, he's 5, like Dave said, so we check in with each other on the way to school, on the way to drop off, because we live close. And Dave's wife is my son's kindergarten teacher, and she is the GOAT. By the way,
she is.
My son wakes up every day excited and happy to go to school, so that's been a huge blessing. And just getting to know you has been a blast. And I feel like this is just the start for us. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Love it.
I love doing podcasts like this. I was super excited when you called this morning to do this.
Yeah. I'm kind of a last minute guy.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's how I roll too. So yeah, like Dave said, I grew up here in Cedar Falls in the Cedar Valley. I was a skinny kid, a basketball player. Always just sports is really all I did until really about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I'm still.
You said you're a skinny kid?
Yeah.
So like I'm 270.
And I'm 325.
325.
Yeah.
All right. So they really beefed you up.
Yeah. So, grew up big basketball fan, basketball player, AAU, 3rd, 4th grade. And, all the way through high school, really thought I was going to go play basketball.
Wow.
I wasn't like a D1 level player, but I was probably D1 AA,
Yeah.
D2 level. So sports, huge part of my life. All my friends, all my relationships really were around sports.
Mm-hmm.
Got into high school. I'll just kind of fast forward to kind of where I'm at now. Went to the University of Iowa for college, but how I got there was pretty unique. Like I said, basketball. Went to the University of Iowa to a summer camp where I was playing quarterback at the time. So I was just going down there. And I kind of got thrusted into playing quarterback my sophomore year of high school because our quarterback got hurt. So I was a tight end. I switched to quarterback. Now it was my junior year going into my senior year. And I had really not ever been trained in quarterback. I just was naturally decent at throwing the ball. My junior year, we had a really good team. We were like ranked on some website or some newspaper top 10 in the whole, or top 10 or top 100 in the United States preseason. We had a lot of really good athletes.
Wow.
So I just needed to hand the ball off and toss the ball to the athletes and let them run.
There you go.
So like I said, I went to the University of Iowa and kind of just to mess around, to be honest. Tried to pick up a few things. I love the Hawks growing up.
So you're a senior in high school at this point?
So
it
was like junior going into senior year. Show up with no pads because quarterbacks didn't need pads. It was just helmet. Well, I'm in the sign-up line, and the Coach Reese Morgan pulls me aside, legendary coach at Iowa. He coached D-line, but recruited Iowa. And he's like, hey, we've recruited a guy down at your high school, Ross Pierschbacher. We like what you do. We don't see you as a quarterback, but would you like to try some tight end out today?
What does Iowa know about quarterbacks anyway?
Yeah.
Should have stuck you there. They should have gone against their intuition on that.
Maybe. So I'm like, absolutely. Like, why not? That tight end was kind of my natural position before I got thrust into quarterback.
Yeah.
So I just tore it up route running that day. Like, I don't think I dropped a single pass in one-on-ones. Like,
nice.
I just really natural, just kind of played basketball out there, did whatever they told me. And then, they're like, well, I was, pretty good. How about you come back in a few days and bring your pads and see if you can block? So I had never really blocked. Long story short, the next day, actually, I went to UNI, University of Northern Iowa, which is here in Cedar Falls, to a quarterback specific camp. And had fun there. Then I learned behind the scenes, they're talking about offering me a scholarship. So I hadn't had any scholarship opportunities and thought I was playing basketball 48 hours before this. So the day I'm at Iowa, I'm talking to Coach Ferentz, the coaches. My dad's there. He's like, what the heck's going on? Then I go to UNI the next day. Then I learned behind the scenes they're talking about offering me. Then I go back to the University of Iowa 2 days later. And, I still do decent running routes. And then they line me up against the best kid at the high school camp. And I gave it my best effort. I'm going to say it wasn't my best showing on the field, but they loved how I came off the ball.
Nice.
They offered me a full ride, I think 2 days later, I committed within the week. I mean, as an Iowa kid going to the University of Iowa is like,
Tops.
pinnacle.
Yeah.
So that was a super easy decision for me.
Yeah.
Played my last year at Cedar Falls High School, more in a tight end, defensive end role. Enrolled at the University of Iowa as a tight end. Made it about probably 6 months, and they moved me to tackle.
Who were the other tight ends at the time?
So we had CJ Fedorowicz, Ray Hamilton, Jake Doozy, George Kittle, and then right behind me, after I was there a couple of years, Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta.
Some big names.
Yeah, I mean, like all the top.
That's what
tight
they do.
ends.
They crank out tight ends. Yep.
So that room was a little
crowded
for me, and they're like, we haven't recruited a lot of tackles. And I just remember sitting in Coach Ferentz's office. He's like, if you move to tackle, you're going to have a good opportunity to play a year or two earlier than you would at tight end. And you're going to have, he basically told me, he's like, you'll play in the NFL. I'm like, well, let's do that. I mean, that sounds like fun.
It's not a bad selling job there.
Yeah.
You'll play in the NFL. Okay.
Yeah. So just started packing on the weight, kind of the opposite of what you're all about. I was eating whatever.
Yeah. Let's unpack that for a second. So you go in a skinny kid to Iowa, and they're kind of known for just beefing boys up. I mean, Iowa in general, outside of football, is known for beefy kids, but what does that look like? You go in a skinny kid, high metabolism, and you got to put on weight. Like, was that difficult, or what, what kind of like eating regimen did they put you on at that point?
Yeah. So in high school, I didn't lift a lot of weights. I was, naturally, like just genetically pretty strong enough to be very effective at a high school level. So when I got to the University of Iowa, Coach Doyle, they just kind of had like a feeder system. They'd done it before. Some guys came in too big. They needed to get them small. Some guys were small. They wanted to make them big. So I would just meet with Coach Doyle, put a plan together, and basically what they had is like a goal weight. So let's say I went in at like 235, 240.
You went in at that weight?
Yeah.
Wow. So you were probably working it pretty hard that last year of high school.
I started, trying to beef up a little bit, which is probably what got me moved to the O-line sooner than later. But let's say I'm 240 right now. My goal weight is, let's say 242. So you have a 2 pound under, 2 pound over. So if I ever hit my weight or, a pound above or 2 pounds, that instantly became my new goal weight for the next week. So that freshman year when I was redshirting, I got up to like, I think 285, 290 by my redshirt year. So, it was just a lot of lifting, a lot of protein. They had these shake up things that we would have after workouts that were like 15 plus 100 calories on top of all the meals. So it was just like a lot of eating, a lot of training. And, I did that for really about 2.5, 3 years straight until I got to 310, 315 to, hold my own in the Big Ten. So that's about the weight that I needed to get to. And then when I got there, it was just, about leveling off, refining the weight. And that was a process for me because for a long time, and then your body kind of gets used to like, I need to gain this weight. And then it's like you hit the peak and then you need to kind of level off and get lean. So, that was a process and learned a ton about that, the right way to do it. And, some people say, that sounds awesome. It just became miserable though. It's like eating became part of my job. And it was like overeating.
Well, there's like a lot of folks within the community living with obesity that maybe grew up, some guys that grew up wrestling in particular is something that jumps out, or any real sport where you're having to maintain a weight. And there's a lot of people who honestly develop eating disorders around that because you have to be wired different in order to maintain, a certain weight, to maintain peak physical performance.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting to hear sort of your perspective on that, because I know there's a lot of people in the community who it screwed them up. So you are bulked up. You're at over 300 pounds, holding your own in the Big Ten. How long after you're playing for Iowa do you become a lineman? Like, how long does that take?
So, I switched. When I switched right away. So I moved,
Okay.
Position rooms, drills at practice. I'm with the O-line. So that was my real freshman year. It's kind of hard. Like, you have your freshman year and you redshirt.
Mm-hmm.
Is when I did. And then I played some as a redshirt freshman as like a jumbo tight end. And I was the swing tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So if either tackle got hurt, I would go in. And I was playing at like 280, 285. That's a little too light. And I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really hard to bulk during the season because you're practicing 2-3 hours a day, sweating a lot. And then you got to go to class on top of it. I mean, you just don't have a ton of time to eat, for lack of better terms.
I'd find a way. You were a jumbo tight end. I'm a jumbo podcaster. You do what it takes.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it takes. So then I became a full-time starter my sophomore year. So I was a 3-year starter at the University of Iowa. My final year, my senior year, I had opportunity to go to the NFL after my junior year. I played that whole season. I played solid. I was all Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't going to be like a first, second, third guy. I would have been a later round pick. And I loved the University of Iowa. I loved my teammates. Knew we'd have a good team. So came back for my senior year. Ruptured my Achilles second game of the season, second or third game of the season.
In that moment.
Yeah.
Right. You're still a kid. I mean,
yeah.
You're what?
I was probably 22.
So, which, in the moment you don't feel like a kid, but looking back, you were a kid.
Yeah.
That's a lot to process, because you go, did I make the right decision, or did I just ruin? I mean, is that kind of what goes through your head, or what's going through your head at that moment?
So when it happened, we were playing in Ames, Iowa State, like our biggest rival, Iowa kids, biggest game every year, there in Nebraska, I'd say. So when I found out, Achilles is not really like a young person injury.
Right.
So, but I just remember sitting on the bench that day, because it was a hot September day in Ames, and sat there, got the news. It's very easy to tell when you have a ruptured Achilles.
Yeah, you kind of know it probably.
Yeah, like right when I got to the bench, they felt it, and they're like, yeah. So I didn't know at the time what rehab consisted of, but, for me, it was always, Coach Ferentz or Coach Doyle would lay out a plan. You follow the plan, you're going to be successful. They're, turning boys to men. They're making football players. So in my head right there, I'm like, these guys told me I had the ability to go to the NFL. Like, it doesn't matter what happens now. Like, I know where I'm going. So, I very soon turned the page. I wasn't really that down ever with that.
That's great that you're able to maintain that mentality. I would have been shattered.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, it's over. I should have gone to the NFL last year. I screwed everything up.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to look back and say that, but I would say that, strengthened a lot of things just in me.
Yeah.
But I was still at this point relying a lot on myself, working hard.
Yeah.
I guess the Lord needed to allow me to rupture my both Achilles a total of 3 times.
Wow.
To really get me to fully rely on him, So, I wish I would have done it after the first one, obviously, but I just was like, I've always done it like this. I've always worked hard. I've always worked harder than, most other people. I have great genetics. I know that if I put the work in, I'll see the fruits of my labor. So I just set out. I'm like, I'm going to get really strong upper body until I can start working lower. And, pro day was only 6 months out from that. So I did pro day, I shouldn't have done pro day looking back, but I had to show that I could move around.
Yeah.
I blow my hamstring out running my 40.
At the pro day?
At pro day. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which I don't even know if I ever talked about that, but then I have to do all the drills. I have to do everything else. And I basically just had them like tape a fake hamstring. The trainers can like create a usable hamstring for, a couple hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I got through that. My film in college was good enough to get opportunities.
In that moment,
Yeah.
so you're running out there with, I just think of like making lemons out of lemonade, right?
Yeah.
In that moment where you blow your Achilles, or blow out your hamstring, do you almost feel like you have an opportunity in that moment to maybe show something that's like less tangible for everybody who's in peak physical shape in that moment? Does it show something to those NFL guys watching, like, if this is something this dude can do with a blown out hammy? Like, do you think that ultimately worked to your advantage, or have you ever thought about it that way?
No one even knew probably until me just saying it that it happened, because there's elements to the NFL, like they don't want guys that are hurt. I mean, that being healthy is all that really matters.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to run 240s. I ran the first one. I just went over to the trainers. I'm like, hey, I just put my hamstring out and I knew it was pretty bad. I'm like, you need to do something to just let me get through the rest of the day. So that's really all I ever did with that.
So it was low key. So people didn't even know. So you're continuing on at pro day with the blown out hammy, and you're not even getting the benefit of people knowing this guy's running on a blown hammy.
Because really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, all guys are playing with something. And I knew that at Iowa, it's just football. You're always playing with something that's, you're never at 100%. So, got through that and then go undrafted to the Bills. Have a good training camp there, play well in the preseason. They release me, and there's like a 24-hour window where you can get claimed by any team in the NFL. I get claimed by the Chiefs. So I fly to Kansas City.
What year is this, Ike?
This is 2018. So I go to Kansas City and like to their 53-man roster, and we play the Chargers that week. They're still in San Diego. And then I go back to Kansas City. They release me that week because they're trying to put me on practice squad. There's like a little bidding war, and Buffalo ends up claiming me back. And then I spend 5 years in Buffalo. So that's kind of my welcome to the NFL moment was, it's a business, and I was single but engaged at the time. So it was easy for me to move around, but it was like, man, some guys have to deal with this with a wife and kids, getting traded. And so, I would say the Lord always had my back, and always, just given me enough where I can handle it, but also creating that full reliance on him has been really what the last 3 years has been for me.
Yeah, I love that perspective, Ike. I know we and I were talking about just totally unrelated stuff before we started recording today, and we were talking about this idea of maybe giving your kids a head start in life by helping them with a down payment on a home or that kind of thing. And I shared with you about how my dad died when I was a young freshly married guy. And I remember how not having that backstop, that support system of a dad that you always kind of knew was going to be there if you took a risk and it failed miserably and you couldn't pay your mortgage, your dad was going to be there to bail you out. Like losing that was a big moment for me personally, to just kind of learn how to rely on God as like our Heavenly Father, right? And I think that was a way that I got to know God intimately in a personal way, that had I not gone through that whole process of losing my old man, that I don't know that I would ever know God that way on this side of earth. Yeah. And so in a way, I'm very thankful for that experience and other difficult experiences in life that have made me rely on God in a new and fresh way. And I think for me, I've had, like, even in this past year, a similar story, struggling with my health, had a big health scare back in May, and just looking back on it in hindsight, I learned to trust God in a new way, through all of that. And so having that perspective, especially as a younger guy, I think is setting you up for some pretty awesome things in life. So here you are, you're in the NFL, you're playing for the Bills, and then kind of going back to a couple years ago, because it's been a couple years, right?
Yeah, 2020 2022 or 2021. It's been about 3 years.
All right.
Yeah.
So what happens at that point?
Yeah. So, okay, I'll just shorten my career with the Bills. So first 2 years, I'm on the roster, don't play a lot, maybe see action in 10-ish games, but never like a solidified starter. My third year, become a starter about halfway through the season. Finish out that season, we go to the AFC Championship. Awesome run,
Had to be
really
a crazy
fun,
experience.
Yeah, really fun year. Josh Allen as quarterback. I mean, it doesn't get any better. More fun guy to play with or lead the team, lead the organization. So, my most fond football memories really all come from that season in terms of NFL career.
Was that also the DeMar Hamlin?
That happened
season, or was that
actually when
later?
I was hurt. So that happened 2 years after that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was my third year. Fourth year, come back. Day one of training camp, I pop positive for COVID. So I get forced into a quarantine for 2 weeks, sit in a hotel. And that just, I mean, I was in amazing shape, but being away from everything, and then you miss the whole ramp up of training camp. I lost like everything that I had really worked.
So you were in a quarantine for 2 weeks. Were you physically down that whole time too, or
like I would say I had COVID pretty bad, but not to the point where it was like debilitating. Like I was still training and still working out on my own.
But you still just can't replicate.
You can't replicate football conditioning unless you're
movements.
In it.
And it's all unique to actually doing it.
Yep. So I go, right into the meat of training camp, and it's hot, and I, get some heat exhaustion. So I'm, down pretty bad there at the beginning of the season.
What year is this, Ike?
This was my fourth year in the NFL. This would have been 2021.
Okay.
So I'm, getting healthy. Then I become the starter again about midway through the season, about the same time as the year before. We're rolling, same trajectory as a team, really another fun season. And then I get some shellfish poisoning.
Wow.
The night before a game, actually playing Tampa. And I then get prescribed a medication called ciprofloxacin.
It's like a
fluoroquinolone. Yeah. Yep. And I had been on prednisone about 4 weeks before for a stinger that I had. So corticosteroid. Anyway, come to find out, the combination of those two is not good for tendon health. It completely depletes collagen production. The meta-analysis, which is like the highest regarded medical information, shows like a 46 times greater chance in rupturing your Achilles.
Wow. And we actually talk about a lot about like meta-analysis, post-marketing data here at On the Pen in terms of anti-obesity medications.
Yeah.
And that's literally where the drug comes to market. And then through electronic medical records, they're able to actually tell what's this doing in the real world. And so they can pull who's on this and this and this, and what does that mean for health outcomes. So basically a 40x increase in,
not 40%, 40x.
That's what is that, 4,000?
I think it's I
don't know, whatever
it's
the math
too many.
is. It's too many.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the things that kind of blows my mind about your story, is because I think, like, for those of us on the outside of the NFL and athletes at that high level, we just assume that you have like the best of the best all the time, every time, in terms of medical attention, in terms of even when it comes to weight management and body composition, that you have the best of the best, like, putting food in front of you. This is what you're eating. There really isn't, like, you're sort of on your own in a way, right?
Yeah, I'd say that, was a huge wake up call to me, to like, it really started me on this health journey. I know this will connect well with your audience. It's like, I didn't even know you could have and be prescribed a medication that has a black label warning for tendon rupture. Like, I mean, I've seen a black label warning on cigarettes, shown to cause cancer, blah, blah, blah. So learning all of that, I'm like, well, number one, I already had an Achilles rupture in college. So just looking at my record, I probably should never have been prescribed.
You're probably Oh, there's a medical term for it, but you should never be on that medication.
No.
Because your chances of that already are probably increased having it done once.
Yep.
And then to compound that with
Yeah.
drugs that are already known to cause that problem.
Yeah. So basically, like, I think it was 11 days after I'd started the antibiotic, which is also where it's highly concentrated in your body.
Sure, with the half-life of the
Yeah.
medication.
I'm warming up in Gillette Stadium. We're playing the Patriots. And like, I'm just like, man, my Achilles is it's very tight. Like, I just remember before the game feeling like it just doesn't feel right. I run like a basic, I don't even touch anybody. I just run left on one of the first plays of the game, like a naked bootleg, it's called. And I just feel like a twinge in my calf. I'm like, oh, that's not good, because I had ruptured my other Achilles. So I'm like, I know what that reminds me of something that I don't like.
It's a familiar feeling that scares you to no end, I'm sure.
So that was, the first 5 plays of the game.
Yep.
And so I'm playing on basically one leg for probably 2-3 more series.
Oh.
And then I go to take off and cover, it's called, like chase the ball, after we did a handoff, and it popped. I didn't know any of this stuff about the medication at the time. So I get, I know right away, and I was mad, then, because I'm about a month away from a second contract. I had 20 plus starts, a lot of great film.
Everything is looking up at this point.
Yeah. It was like, that's kind of the next step in my career. It was like, then I can get my second contract. I can really dial in.
You just have to make it to that point.
Yeah. So, that happened. And, in my mind though, it was like, all right, I've done this before. I can do it again. 3 months later, I re-rupture the same Achilles walking out of a restaurant. Find out that
walking out of a restaurant.
The same surgeon that did my surgery had like 8 pro or college guys re-rupture within that same time period. So, that was another frustrating thing with the medical community. I'd say that I'm like, I just wasn't really knowledgeable of this side of it because I'd never been in it. Right. But I'm like, I think I'm getting the best of the best, and you kind of trust what you're told. So, that's what really started me, figuring out I'm going to take responsibility for my health, whether it's internal, external. I'm going to learn what I need to do to make myself healthy. I know there's going to be resources, but how many things have to happen until I'm like, all right, I'm not going to be trusting blindly a professional to help me when I've had these issues, Yeah,
I think like that's another fallacy. Like I talked a little bit earlier, from the outside of the NFL looking in and just assuming how things are.
Yeah.
And then they're actually not that way at all. It's kind of the same thing with the medical community in that, and I don't want to, put anybody down, but I mean, the reality is there's idiots in every profession.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you're talking about doctors or lawyers or pastors or anybody that we tend to societally put on a pedestal, football players, podcasters, there's a lot of idiots that do every profession.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes, even if they're not idiots, people they don't know what they don't know. Yeah. And so it's so important to advocate for your health. It's one of the reasons that On the Pen exists in the first place. Is one of the things that I repeat over and over, and people will probably say it right along with me, is that we exist to help people have more competent and confident conversations with their doctor, because knowledge is really power when it comes to self-advocacy. And that's when you're talking about any level of a health journey, which obviously what we talk about here is diabetes and obesity. But if you're even talking about joint health and just body optimization, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you have to be informed, and your best shot at the best outcome in life in terms of your health is to be armed with knowledge and power, so that you can make decisions together with those medical professionals.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not bashing people in that profession at all. I'm just telling you, this is what happened to me.
This is your experience.
It is what it is.
And I mean, and I think it's a lot of people that are listening to this in our community will connect with that, because there's a lot of people that will go into their doctor living with obesity, which is well documented to be a disease. There's all sorts of metabolic dysfunction happening in people that struggle with the disease of obesity. you just need to eat less and move more, as if that person hasn't spent the last 20 years of their life doing exactly that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what else?
Yeah.
What else is going on that we could maybe address, that you could leverage your expertise?
Yeah.
And that's why when we talk about these medications, like GLP-1 medications, even going back like a year or two ago when I was just getting new into this, there were so many people that would come into my podcast comments or into my inbox and say, my doctor doesn't know anything about this medication.
Yeah.
And so, and
it's just hard to ask a doctor to be an expert in all of these different things. It's like,
100%.
That's why I'm saying you need to take responsibility for your own health, because number one, nobody knows your body better than you.
Right.
Proprioception, people have different levels of proprioception, like how they move and how they think about moving and what they recognize. I'm just talking about movement, for example, but nobody knows how they feel internally better than you. So it's kind of hard to say, like, all these symptoms. The doctor can look at a lot of different things, but you're going to know if what you're doing is working pretty fast, better than they are just talking to you.
Right.
And I know personalized health is a buzzword, and it's very hard to give that to everyone as a doctor who has only a very small amount of time.
Right. Especially when you're working within the confines of the current healthcare system and insurance, because they're only getting reimbursed for a very small amount of that time with you.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to be as efficient as possible. Like you said, they can't be expected to know everything about everything.
Yep.
And also their time is limited.
Yeah.
And so, that is where the idea of this personalized medicine, if you can get it and you can get access to a doctor that you can actually spend the appropriate amount of time to, or you have access to, I think is a big thing. And that's why people look at these telehealth options. Like Roe is a huge sponsor of our podcast. Like, I always have a doctor available right here in my phone.
Yeah.
If there's something that I need, I'm going to get an answer in very short order, whether it's something that I'm dealing with on a medication, a side effect, a question about, whatever, macronutrients, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So it's an excellent point that personalized medicine is sort of an industry buzzword, but it's also something that people need when they're dealing with chronic conditions. In your case, these ligaments and.
Yeah. And there's just a lot of other side effects that I learned about them that, because then I went back-to-back surgeries, pretty heavy surgeries with a lot of anesthesia. Just my body was very bogged down, a lot of inflammation. And I'll just fast forward to the year after. So then I re-signed with Buffalo. I re-signed with Buffalo again, get released. That would have been 2023. I get released. I signed with the Colts after week 1, and I still am not feeling good. No, not even close. But I really think that the Lord sent me to Indy to meet a gal named Sarah Godsave, and she owns Down to Earth Wellness, it's called.
Okay.
Right outside Indianapolis. And so that was kind of the first eye-opening experience to, like, what is, personalized health, and no, it's not covered by insurance. Yes, it works. It is. If you look at the last 2 years, because I get extensive blood work done probably 4-ish months. So 3 times a year. And you see my numbers from when I started to where I'm at now. It's insane. And I can tell.
What numbers you talk about?
Just all my blood work. Sorry.
Okay,
yeah. And doing, some specific genetic testing to see if I have any gene mutations that might be, hindering me from feeling the best that I can. But meeting her, starting, in on that journey. And then, I moved back to Iowa, but still being able to communicate with her, sit down with her over Zoom for an hour and just going over every time I get, my blood work done, what's working, what's not. And, my wife just started, and my wife said she met with her and she's like, you can take this at whatever level you want. Your husband, he went, I've never had someone go more deep, all in from the start, but that's just how I am. If I know something's going to work, I have a very limited amount of time to play football. I'd love to get back to playing this year if it's in God's will. So I knew, I'm like, I have to I got to reverse all these issues, get my body running how it's supposed to. And, I've done that through the help of her, but just the amount of stuff I've learned and been able to tell her about, we always have a great productive conversations. And it's really gotten me extremely passionate about helping other people that they have their own health journey, but it's like finding someone that at least knows where to start, finding out what's going on internally in your body and what are the couple big things that we might be able to boost your energy, boost your clarity, get some of that mental fog out so that you can focus on, fine tuning every part of your body so that you can be a more productive human. For me, it's being a more productive football player, being able to train. But for most people, it's like, man, I just want to play with my kids. I want to go to the park and be able to run around with them and like feel energy from that and not be like bogged down and feeling terrible.
Right.
So everybody's, got a different journey. But for me, it was like, how fast can I get this to turn around? And it's been a journey. I've learned a ton. But I feel better right now than I did in high school. I mean, and I weigh 320 pounds. I train hard. And I'm 30, 30's ancient in the NFL. So, that's kind of been my journey with the health stuff and why I love it, because it's changed my life.
I love it. And so a couple things that I want to just piggyback on there. One of the things I love about you as you're telling your story is how much you're looking at things that happen to you in terms of, maybe why an injury happens or where ultimately you land for work, right? In this case, it was Indianapolis, which connected you to all this knowledge that, boy, you would have loved to have 5 years ago. But ultimately, what I see kind of rising up in you is this passion for just people to live the best version of themselves from a health standpoint. And you're kind of seeing the benefit of this, personalized medicine, this sort of, something that's sort of happening outside of the normal healthcare system. Right. So I love to see those things in you, because those are definitely like ways that I view the world and try to view things that happen and just try to understand what God is doing in each season of life. Tell us a little bit about, because we don't have a ton of time left, tell us a little bit about Stally, because I feel like this is the perfect setup for what Stally is about, and just this idea of just being at your peak performance to show up, whether it's for your teammates, whether it's for your wife or your kids or your community or your church. Tell us a little bit about Stally.
Yeah. So Stally, I've been working on Stally for about a year. So the name is short for Stallion, and that was just always a nickname that I had.
Not Stolly. So one of the funny things is that when Ike first wore this hat, I was like, "What's Stolly?" He's like, "Yeah, Stally," and and he's like, "You can say it both ways," because Ike is just a nice guy, but it's Stally. It's funny because like one of the things that I'm known for in this sort of genre, besides interrupting people all the time, is that I started this medication and I got, like 30 pounds down within 5 months. And then I stalled for like 2.5 years. So it's like Stally would be the natural interpretation for me. But
I don't care what you call it, because that's just a fun little thing. It's like, hook fishing.
Yeah.
HUK. People call it huck, hook.
Yeah, huck, hook. It's intrigue.
You can call it whatever you want. I just love for you to buy a hat and join the stable is what I'm calling it. Just the community. And I got a lot of fun stuff that I have planned with the brand. It's going to be like a Western athleisure flair on clothing and hats. Just starting with hats and just kind of dipping my toe right now, because I would really still like to play football, and I don't want to, if I go to football, like I'm all in with football. But this has been something fun to work on over the last year.
You're still kind of carrying this idea behind Stally. Tell us. So it was obviously a nickname that you had, and so it's a natural thing to kind of like represent that from a branding standpoint. But what does it mean? What does it stand for?
So, I mean, really, when I think about it, and it's kind of just my testimony put into a brand. It's like getting knocked down, you get back up, you ride again. Like it's just, there's so many great references to horses, to that just mindset of, I don't care what how many times I get knocked off, how many times I get bucked off. Like you look at a stallion just running strong, they're beautiful. You know, they're chasing something. This is all themes that, you know, I've always had intrinsically, that I would love to create just a community around that. And, you know, grow it into something where people are connecting through that, because my background in sports, entrepreneurial, you know, I know that's kind of a buzzword. Everybody says they're an entrepreneur, but people that are, you know, doing something, chasing something that maybe hasn't been done, or putting their niche, you know, onto it.
Yeah.
And then this health and wellness stuff, I think it all works really well together.
Yeah.
And I wanted to build a platform, you know, that I can create and talk to a lot of people that I know that are extremely high performers, whether it's in football, entrepreneurship, the health field, and bring up, you know, I don't know if I'll do a podcast. I don't know if I'll do a newsletter, social media, whatever, but just give people a place like, hey, I want to be the best version of myself in this area, that area. And I kind of have my niches when it comes to that. And I know where I fall short or don't have the knowledge. I know people that either know, or people that know kind of the best in those areas. So that's kind of what is behind Stally. But, you know, I love like athleisure clothes, and I got sick of paying like $100 for a shirt that I like, that fits, because I'm bigger. So that's like the clothing. I wanted to start the clothing, so I got something to wear.
We probably wear the same size shirt. What size shirt are you in?
I'm 3X.
3X.
Yeah. And big hats.
Yep,
you know,
yep.
Like I'm on the second. I still got one left, but I got a pretty big
I'm
noggin.
big guy, tiny head, because I'm there. But so Stally, I think really where I connect with it, Ike, is this idea of just being the best version of you, which is totally something that On the Pen stands for. And so when I heard you sort of talking about it and what it meant, I was like, I literally couldn't love that more. If people want to check out what you've done so far, because again, you're going to be back on an NFL team real soon. I can kind of feel it in my bones, and I know that you're feeling it too. But for now, what you've got up there is these hats, right?
Yep.
So these are the 3 styles, right?
Yep.
So these 3 hats, and where can people find them, Mike?
We're just StallyBrand.com.
StallyBrand.com.
I got a little team coming together that is helping me with stuff, so it'll keep running even if I get back on the team. Just starting with hats, and you know, we'll get into like some comfier clothes that look nice that you can wear anywhere. So I've got the connections to do all of it. It's just God's timing is perfect, so I'm just taking it one step at a time.
That's amazing, and I love it. So Stally Brands.
Just Stally Brand.
StallyBrand.com. We'll roll it across the bottom.
Yeah, so if you just want to check it out, StallyBrand.com. I'm also Stally Brand on Instagram. That's really the only social media I'm running with right now. I still got to have Dave teach me how to use TikTok.
We'll get you there.
Yeah, but I'll figure that out as well at some point. But if you want to check it out, and OTP 10 for 10% off.
Sweet.
I'd love for you to just check the site out. I've never put a website together, and I put that together, and it was pretty fun doing it. And I got, you know, a lot of the themes and the kind of the story behind the brand on there. So yeah, just check it out.
Yeah.
DM me on Instagram. Tell me what you think. Any critiques, any compliments, I'll take it all.
Yeah. First of all, I've built websites before. This is your first stab at it. I think it's great. Go to StallyBrand.com. Come back in the comments here and put a stallion emoji if you checked it out, and let us know what you thought about that. Ike will be checking it out. Super generous of you to offer the deal to the OTP community. I kind of put you on the spot there, but thank you for doing that. I love everything that Stally stands for. I love everything that Ike Boettger stands for. Of course, we love you. We love your whole family. We got your little guy, oldest guy, but little guy in kindergarten this year in my wife's class. We just have really enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm really grateful that you came and gave some time to the OTP community today. StallyBrand.com. Really looking forward to seeing you back in an NFL uniform, and now the OTP community will have someone to cheer for, because we're like a lot of like women between the ages of like 55 and 65 watch this program. Love it. Now you'll have something to connect with your husband on if you don't have anybody to cheer for. You got Ike.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming here, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
we'll do it again, bud. Ike Boettger, my gym buddy now, and he's been such a help for me getting back in the gym, and just an encouraging guy to spend time with. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you did, let me know in the comments. Your comments help to push this out, let other people know about Stally, this whole idea about just showing up as the best version of you. And certainly there's a health element to that. And I hope that y'all made that connection tonight with Ike's story. Friends, I thank you so much for being here. I thank you so much for giving me this platform where I just love to come and share with you each and every week. I love to hear the stories from the community, the stories from our friends and medical professionals. We're 113 episodes in with a whole catalog of great interviews, just like this one, where we hear from medical professionals. We hear from people in the obesity community. Of course, that's not Ike, professional football player, but the idea of showing up is the best version of you, and sort of how we can achieve that. Ike's finding his way medically through personalized medicine. I know many of you in the O2P community are finding your way there through personalized medicine. So thank you for meeting my friend Ike, and thank you to Ike for being willing to spend some time with us this week. My prayer for each and every one of you, friends, for the rest of the week is that the Lord would bless you and keep you, that he would cause his face to shine upon you, and that he would be gracious to you in this coming week. Friends, thanks for being here, and we will catch you